Yo, 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 this is not the smartest guys in the room. I see Tom. It looks like Tom might have new frames on today. Are these new frames, Tom? You're looking good.
No, same old glasses. I cleaned them so I could see a little better. They were a little smudged up. I was grilling some burgers and dogs at the firehouse last night for the crew there. We had a meeting and our monthly meeting, and so I was cooking some dinner for everybody. And so I got like all the smoke that comes off the grill has like grease in it, like grease particulates, which you don't really think about
Yeah.
until you're wearing glasses and you try to like look at somebody and everything is like kind of foggy and you're like what's going on, and then you're like, oh, my glasses are covered in like burger grease from the grill. So I cleaned them up, but so maybe they're a little shinier than normal, but yeah, they're same old glasses.
Okay. Tiny observations I'm noticing. And speaking of glasses, over the 4th of July, Tom, I lost 3 pairs of sunglasses.
How?
Well, I lost one in the lake. I had this nice 4th of July glasses. I jumped it, dove in the lake, glasses gone. Second pair, I left at the lake. Third pair, somehow got in the washing machine and dryer. So I actually only lost 2 pairs, but third pair was damaged beyond belief because once they went through the dryer, the reflective on the front of them was no longer useful.
I you with sunglasses is like it's hilarious because I mean you're obviously a full grown adult man, like one kid in high school, one kid in college, right? Like married for 2+ decades, like a clearly middle-aged guy, right? Responsible adult, but with sunglasses, you're like a 4-year-old. Like but specifically just with sunglasses, it's hilarious. But like you cannot keep a pair of sunglasses.
No, I'm not even close. And I went to my backups and my backups. I mean, that's why I can't spend more than $10. But I will say, sometimes if I have to go to 15, it gets depressing. But Dr. Tachi about a year ago on here said I needed to take better care of my hats. And my wife bought me a hat rack. And since I got that hat rack, I've lost no hats. They're like in rows. I go back behind, haven't lost a hat in like a year. It makes me feel so good knowing where my hat is at all times.
Nice. Well, yeah, maybe you need like a. So you should. I bet you can get one on Amazon or like somewhere online, whatever. Maybe don't go to Amazon just because I don't like them, and I don't want to espouse going to Amazon. But yeah, I feel like you should get one of those little display things for sunglasses, right? Like one of the little twirly display things that like sits on a counter. You know what I'm talking about? Get one of those for sunglasses and just keep your sunglasses on there. I mean, maybe it'll be the hat rack effect all over again, and you'll actually be able to, keep a pair of sunglasses. I think the other thing is, and maybe I don't want to step on your PSA if this is what you were going to talk about later, but maybe a good PSA for you would be or for you to hear would be, don't dive in the water with your sunglasses on. They will fall off and you will lose them.
Okay, well, this is very wise of you, Tom, but I'm going to the beach in a couple weeks. What are you supposed to do when you're out in the water and like I need sunglasses? And so remember, I used to swim in sunglasses before you told me how weird that was. I was in that swim club. But Tom, what am I supposed to do out in the water in the middle of a lake? Like, I need sunglasses.
I mean, if you're swimming, you wear goggles. And if you're not swimming and you're just like floating around or whatever, you don't wear anything,
We're
right? Like,
doing both. We were jumping off docks and things like that, floating dock.
yeah, then you don't wear glasses. Like, is everybody else wearing sunglasses too, or is it just you?
No comment on that.
Yeah, exactly. I think maybe this is a case. I'm all for like standing out, doing your own thing, right? Like being an individual. I think that's a good thing generally. But this may be one of those rare instances when you just want to go with the pack and like do what everybody else is doing and not wear sunglasses when you're jumping off of docks.
Okay, Tom, I I will give that a point to you. But it is not about looks. It's about these giant wrinkles I have in between my face from all the years landscaping for my dad. I look like a catcher's mitt, so I can't take any more lines on my face, or else you'd be able to play the guitar on my forehead. So that's the reasoning.
I think maybe you should watch some reels on skincare routines. There's lots of them, and you can start your own skincare routine. But then also here's a little trick, right? This is something we've done, like, that comes from my background in production, right? But a lot of people have trouble being outside without sunglasses on because it's too bright, and it hurts their eyes, which I totally get. Here's a little trick to help your eyes adjust to the bright sunlight when you're outside. What I want you to do, and this is very, very important that you do this exactly as I'm suggesting you do it, because if you don't, you could actually damage your eyesight, and that would clearly be bad. And so I'm not encouraging people to do this any other way than I'm specifically describing it. So what you do is you go outside, you close your eyes, close your eyes, keep them closed. With your eyes closed, I cannot stress enough, they have to remain closed. With your eyes closed, I want you to turn your face directly toward the sun, right? And point your face directly at the sun with your eyes closed. Do not look at the sun, keep your eyes closed. And just count to 10 or 20 or 30, just like that, right? With your eyes closed. Then I want you to look away from the sun and open your eyes. And it will help your eyes. It'll give your eyes a little bit of time to adjust, and it will help them adjust to the bright light outside, so they won't hurt so much when you're not wearing sunglasses. So just a little trick, because we used to have to do interviews with people and ask them to take their sunglasses off all the time outside, and people would be like, I can't. And we would do this little trick, and almost every single time they would turn around and be like, oh my God, that's so much better, right? So anywhere from 10 to 30 seconds, whatever works for you. Sometimes some people are good with 10 seconds. Some people need a little bit longer to make it work. But whatever works for you, do that little trick, and it'll help your eyes adjust. And maybe they won't hurt so bad when you're outside without sunglasses on, jumping off of docks. And that way, maybe you won't lose so many pairs. I don't know. Just throwing it out.
Tom, how have I known you 6 years and you never laid this piece of material that I could have benefited from? Come on, man.
I mean, I don't know. It hasn't specifically come up before, I guess.
Really shitty of you. Okay, we are getting started. This is not the smartest guys in the room. I don't know if I said that yet. And we got sidebarred like only me and Tom can do. Sometimes before we jump on, we're like, oh, holy cow, we've been talking 15 minutes. We better start this show. So today we're talking creating what your audience wants, not maybe sunglasses and chat like that, but the subject matter. Tom, you brought the subject up today. I agree. So why don't you get into what you were thinking?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Tom. So there was an interesting article in Bloomberg a couple of days ago. I think 3 days ago now. It was on the 5th. I think that it came out, where they published some data from Nielsen, the famous sort of ratings company that tracks television watching, et cetera. We get into their data another day, and how kind of fraught it is. But according to Nielsen's data, YouTube is now the biggest deliverer of content to television sets in the country, right? So bigger than Netflix, bigger than Skydance Paramount, bigger than Warner Brothers Discovery, bigger than any of the other big players, Hulu, Amazon, whoever. The three biggest are Netflix, Paramount, Skydance, and YouTube. YouTube is magnitudes of order bigger than the other two. Not big enough that they're bigger than the other two combined, but significantly bigger. Basically, what that means is YouTube is now the biggest television provider. They are the biggest, I guess, to think of it in sort of more classical terms, or terms that we're used to, they're the biggest network. They're bigger than NBC. They're bigger than ABC. They're bigger than CBS. They deliver more content to more television sets than anybody else. People watch more content on television, on YouTube, than from any other provider. And that's a really interesting signal when you couple that information with some information that's come out from Netflix recently in particular, where they've said they're actually looking at their own data, trying to figure out what's going on, because on a bunch of their sort of flagship series that they're spending, tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars to produce, they're seeing huge drop-offs in viewership from season 1 to season 2. The one that I remember off the top of my head is the Four Seasons, which was a Tina Fey, Steve Carell ensemble cast, Will Forte, right? Some big names in this cast, and it debuted its first season, did really well. It was one of the top shows on Netflix the first season. Season 2 came out a year later, and it didn't even crack the top 10 for season 2, and they saw a 66% drop off in viewership from season 1 to season 2. And they're trying to figure out why. And here's what I think the problem is. I think the problem is that they're creating these big, flagship, expensive, complicated, difficult, challenging series to produce. And because of all of these constraints on these programs, they take a very long time to produce. So you're going a year between seasons. And what's happening is it's just too long. So it isn't that people don't like it. It's just that by the time the second season comes out a year later, they're not excited about it anymore. And enough has happened in the interim that a lot of people, I think, are skipping season 2 because they feel like they don't remember season 1 well enough to watch season 2 without going back and rewatching season 1. And they don't have time for that. There's too much other stuff going on, too many other new things that they want to watch. They don't have time to go back and watch season 1 again in order to watch season 2, right? The bar is too high. Conversely, on YouTube, there are a lot of channels that put out daily content. There are a lot of channels that have high subscriber rates, millions of subscribers, that put out content 2-3 times a week, sometimes once a week, whatever the case may be, but all year round. So you're competing with a sort of sporadic delivery of very high value content and expensive content, things like Four Seasons and other expensive flagship series on Netflix, or you're dealing with cheaper to produce, formatted, consistent content that comes out on a weekly basis all year round. And the issue is that people are opting for the consistency in the sort of lower cost content over the more inconsistent high cost content. And so that I think, from my perspective, I think that's the reason why. It's just too long. It takes too long to put out these shows. It takes too long to produce them. And people just don't want to come back to season 2 because they have to rewatch season 1. They have to try to figure out what's going on again. Whereas they can go to their YouTube content and it's like 2 days since they watched a video from this channel that they love, that they watch all the time. And they're like, oh yeah, this feels familiar. I like this. This is comfortable. I know this format. I know these people. I know these characters. I know what they're going to do. I know what they're talking about. Like, this is easy content for me to consume, and I enjoy it. So I'm going to pick the easy to consume content that I enjoy that's here all the time for me, rather than the more challenging to consume content that's only here every once in a while or once a year for a few months. So I think that's what's going on, but it's really interesting to see it happening in real time, that YouTube has become the biggest television provider, essentially, or deliverer of content via television in the country. So yeah, it's an interesting time.
Tom, this is really interesting the way you framed the whole thing. One of my questions, it is almost like the streaming channels created the new form of how people watch. So years ago, when we watched cable TV, we saw our episodes for 16 weeks, whatever it was. We didn't see them for a year. We saw one a week. One a week, 16 weeks, they're off, 13 weeks, whatever it was. Off for a whole nother year. We waited. We watched reruns. That was that. Now these Netflix came out, and Netflix, the streaming platforms, they came out and they gave us whole series at one time. Pretty much, I can binge watch. They created the binge watch at one time, but their binge watch, they only created 13 episodes of it, 15 episodes, 16 episodes, 4 seasons, 8 episodes. So now I'm done watching. Then what? I'm saying they created the formula that they didn't keep up with. So when me and my wife, we go to the next series, we go to the next series. And then to your point, I don't watch Night Agent anymore because Night Agent was boring, or I started watching Lioness because Lioness already had 3 seasons out. Now I heard that Breaking Bad struggled at first because they really took a long time developing the characters. It didn't take off as fast. Then once the pandemic came and it went to streaming, the show blew up at a whole nother level because people could watch everything at once. So I wonder, to your point, where YouTube, hey, go back and listen to Not the Smartest Guys. We got years of Not the Smartest Guys for everybody out there. I wonder, the model they created, is it already broken? So what do you think about that, Tom?
Yeah, I mean, to some extent, yes. I mean, I think that they did sort of paint themselves into a corner, but I think really part of the problem was and is, and we see this kind of manifesting in a couple of different ways, their approach to sort of solving the problem is wrong, right? I think Netflix is doing it in one way. Paramount, Skydance, with their upcoming merger with Warner Brothers Discovery, is doing it in a different way. But they're both essentially trying to do the same thing, and that is scale to drive shareholder value. So their approach is to grow their libraries, to grow their own IP so that they can grow shareholder value. And the problem is that when you're dealing with audiences and people making decisions on what they want to watch rather than hard goods or consumer products, right? You are dealing with a whole different animal, and scale doesn't work in the same way. And so you're trying to scale yourself out of a situation that you painted yourself into, and it's not working. Whereas YouTube did the opposite. Years ago, they used to have a YouTube studio, and I don't know if you remember this. I remember when they opened in New York City, they had a studio there. They had studios in a couple places around the country where they would bring creators in. I think it was called YouTube Creator Studio, and they would form a partnership with big creators, and they would help them produce their content, provide studio space and production services, etc. And they would own a piece of that creator's content as a result of that partnership. And they did that for a few years, and then they got out of that business because they realized that it was much more effective for them to leave the content creation to the creators and simply provide the vehicle for delivery of that content. And so that's what they did. They went back to their kind of original business model. Rather than trying to scale into becoming content creators and owning IP and all of that, they said, let's just be the delivery vehicle. And they dialed that back, and now they've surpassed Netflix and Paramount, Skydance. And if you remember back in the day, and even when Netflix started streaming, they had no IP of their own. All they were doing, right, and the original Netflix play was basically to replace the sort of the video store, right? They were doing it with DVDs because they were smaller, they were easier to mail, et cetera, et cetera. And so their whole model was built on delivering other people's content. And then they decided to get into the sort of studio game themselves because they thought that would give them an opportunity to scale and ultimately it has become a huge cost for them, and they're spending hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars a year producing content that they can't get people to stick around and watch season after season. So yeah, so I think, you know, they're going to try to figure out what to do. I think one of the adaptations they're going to make, I'd be willing to bet, is we're going to see a lot more anthology series where each season stands on its own. So rather than it being the same characters or the same, right? So like White Lotus is an anthology series, for example. So we're going to see more content like that, I think, coming out, where you don't, what happened on season 1 doesn't matter for season 2. It's not about getting to know all the same characters, right? The through line is different than sort of just based on characters, and so you don't have to watch season 1 to understand season 2. So yeah, I think we're going to see more anthology series like that, and we're also going to see sort of less expensive, more easy to produce content that allows them to produce more episodes on a more regular basis, because I think those are the two big gaps for them.
Tom, I agree. I think what you will see is lowering the bar for people, lowering the barrier of entry to Netflix, and meaning people like me and you being able to produce for a lower cost. I think just like on YouTube, or how do you get, we talked about this and after the fourth, freedom of choice. People want choice. People want to, I want to watch what I want to watch, whether it's the New York Knicks or this podcast that we're on. You know, I want to watch what I want to watch. And the more choices we can give, and YouTube really is giving more choices. There is more content out there. There's more choices to watch. So is it a freedom of choice thing where people are just saying, I'm not going to watch season 2 of 4 seasons. I did watch season 2, 4 seasons, Tom. I watched season 2 of 4 seasons, and they took Steve Carell off it. And one day I was sitting with my wife, and I said, "It is. I like Tina Fey. I like the other actors on it. It is clear as can be that Steve Carell was a whole different level of actor than the other characters they have on the show. When he comes on, it's like it's night and day, and you sit there like, man." So that's my thoughts on that. All right, creating what you want. This is not the smartest guys in the room. Jason, we're coming to you first today. Then we're going to get to Tom's thumb. So Jason, we need some new. Me and Tom have been talking too long, so weigh in on this. Creating what your audience wants, Jason. Are you?
I could
on.
not disagree with 98% of what Tom is saying. There are things that people are missing. How they read their data when you read your subject matter, like whatever your channel is. Like if you take not the smartest guys, have you ever asked your consumer, people who just watch you, that maybe they don't come on stage, ask them what exactly is you're interested in our show? Is it Tom? Is it Dom? Is the actual subject? Is it the banter? What are the data points that you're getting from your consumer, right? Versus someone like me who's a consumer and participator. I've come in and out of your show. So when I know that, and take what Tom said about Netflix and YouTube, all they did was they just followed the breadcrumb trails that led to each creator. Now, the problem is that they knew who was trending. The word trending is a big deal. When you have so much data points and all it is just the internet was providing it for free, basically, the companies said, wait a minute, we're not going to guess on writers. We're not going to guess on projected profits or attention span or vendors or sponsors. We're going to take it and go above them. And then we're going to tell them, if you really want, we're going to make money from you. And then we're going to make money from our consumers. And we're going to bundle it and package it. And all you have to do is watch what people are steering into more often. Then they steer people's YouTube attention to their styles of their breadcrumb of their data points. So your personal interest. So if you want people to be in your channel, first, what's your channel about? Okay, maybe you don't know all the way, but you know a general area. But when you look and develop your subject matter and your titles, do you go look at the breadcrumbs, like what are other people saying? Not just the top three, but what are they saying? And why are they being, we've talked about it before. Comments and shares are like gold. They are. They're the dollar pieces. And when you have that share factor and comment factor, not like is only determined on how much you watch. But if you share and comment, that means to the data collector, you have an interest value that exponentially can be growth on. And that's my opinion. So hopefully I answered your question, in the right way.
Jason, man, thanks for being here. Appreciate you. And you brought up a subject that when Tom brought up this subject, it made me think of interest-based media. We have talked a lot about that in here, and probably go into that in the second half. That like week of Super Bowl, people are talking about Super Bowl. When people want to know about the guy at McDonald's eating the hamburger, people are talking about it. When people are talking about the World Cup and the Scottish people coming in and drinking, the whole world talking about it. How does your content relate to the interest of the masses? And if you can figure that out sometime and say like, hey, my content relates to this subject because we talk about the cost of Super Bowl ads. My content relates to this because it makes people smile. So I think, go on, Jason.
I was just going to say, here's the funny thing, but you can't have blinders on and just, hey, this is a trending issue and then jump on the bandwagon depending on the timing. You still have to go and create. So my bigger question is what happens in that sphere of influence that's lost because the quality of writing of television shows and movies has significantly dropped in quality, and people are talking about it. They're saying, like, for example, I'm watching this show called Dutton Ranch, right? Based off the Yellowstone series. It's an extension, right? After Yellowstone stopped, Dutton began. Same with Marshalls and all that. Where the bad writing and algorithm reading is, what did they do in their last episode? They brought in the cartel factor. Now, why is that so important? Because this originally storyline was about ranchers and how they build. Now add a Miami Vice / CSI, we're going to fight for ourselves and use a crime factor. It's typical writing, and this is how you sink a story. People are not interested in what they always get. They're interested in what they haven't seen or haven't seen in a long time. So you can't base it just off of algorithms and the trending factor, because people go find new things all the time. And when they're bored of the same old same, they leave. So, yeah.
Well said, Jason. Agree on one, you got to make good content first. Good is best, right? You're trying to make something entertaining that people want to watch, which is the title of today's show, creating what your audience wants. And that's what it's all about, but giving them that. So, okay, we're going to get to, this is not the smartest guys in the room. We're getting to Tom's thumbs here. We're going to make it easy for you today, Tom, in honor of July 4th having happened recently. And I'm seeing talks about a politician in Maine doing weird things and weird things in Washington and weird things on the right, weird things on the left. Tom, I thought you could answer this for us. Thumbs up or thumbs down to the two-party system in the United States?
Yeah, so this is an interesting question. Something I've talked about with friends and in conversation with people before is this two-party system and sort of the natural state of affairs that when you have essentially two parties, you end up in a situation where although people exist on a political spectrum, they have to pick a side. And that is inherently divisive. And I think, we can see that divisiveness in our politics today, right? In the public discourse, in the way people comport themselves, in the way people deal with other people with differing political views. There is a lot of divisiveness in our politics. And again, I think some of that is due to the fact that a two-party system means you have to pick a side, and you're either with one team or against them on the other team, or vice versa. And there is no sort of in between. A lot of people, a surprising percentage of the electorate identifies as independent. In fact, I think the number of people who are registered as independents is greater than either the number of registered Republicans or the number of registered Democrats in most states. So this third part of the electorate that is registered or identifies as independent is a big chunk of people. And I think that signifies something, right? That there is a large group of people, a large swath of the electorate, a large swath of the voting public who don't feel that they closely align with either party enough to feel comfortable picking a side. And so I think that although the United States has operated with a two-party system for most of its history, there have been insurgent parties and third parties and small outside parties outside of the Republican and Democrat parties over time, right? And there are right now, right? You know, I think we've all heard of like the Green Party, et cetera. You know, there are third party candidates that run for elections. There are third parties that have, you know, varying degrees of infrastructure and support. But I genuinely think our politics would be better. And I think we would end up with better policy results if we had a truly viable third party, because what it would mean would be that you couldn't rule to the extreme, right? You couldn't execute policy to either extreme. You would have to execute policy with compromise, because the only way to get anything done would be to attract enough people who identify with a different party from you to agree with you and your policy proposal to be able to push it forward, right? So if we had a third party, let's call them, there used to be a party called the Federalists, so let's call them the Federalists, right? Let's say that we had the Democrats, the Republicans, and the Federalists. If we had a third party like the Federalists, in order for either the Democrats or the Republicans to do anything, they would have to get some Federalists on their side. And in order for the Federalists to do anything, they would have to get either some Democrats or some Republicans on their side. And so you end up with a politics that hinges on cooperation and compromise in a much clearer fashion than a two-party system like we have now, where one party can essentially run roughshod over the other party while they're in power. Then the power dynamics shift, the other party comes into power, and they run roughshod over the other party. And you just end up with this pendulum swing back and forth, and it keeps getting pushed further and further out, more and more extreme in either direction. And it doesn't really work well for a large portion of the American public. And I think the other thing too is, let's be very honest. The American populace is incredibly diverse, right? Both in racial and ethnic identity, but also in culture, right? I mean, there are separate sort of microcultures all over this country that often we don't necessarily celebrate. I think we should, but there are, a huge number of microcultures all over this country that are not well represented by either party. And I think we see that, there's been a huge amount of talk with some of the elections that have happened with Democratic Socialist candidates in New York City, for example. And I think, agree with him or not on policy, I think the mayor of New York, Mamdani, really said it well when he was asked, what does this mean for the Democratic Party? His response was, what is the Democratic Party if it's not its voters, right? And so I think, to a larger extent, what is a country if it's not its people? And I think neither party does a great job of representing a large enough portion of the populace for it to make sense to sort of push forward this two-party system. So for all of those reasons, I have no choice in this case, Dom. I have to give it a thumbs down.
Tom, very cogent argument. Well done on your behalf, and gives us a lot to think about. Like, I'm sitting here thinking, I almost want gridlock again. I want like let's make a whole bunch of more people agree on something before we decide it. That seems like that could be. I don't want complete gridlock, but I want a few people there. I want the majority to agree on things. So well done, Tom. Not the smartest guys in the room. Let's roll on. I have a scenario for you. Go on.
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, you said you don't want gridlock. I mean, like, look, we've got a Congress that has passed one bill in the last 18 months. So it's not like Congress is doing a great job right now, right? I mean, no, they passed a second bill, the housing bill, that Trump was all boo-hooey about, that he wanted them to pass the SAVE Act in order for him to sign that housing bill. It's going to go into law anyway because it passed both houses of Congress. But yeah, that's bill number 2 in like 18 months, right? So it's not like Congress is doing a bang-up job right now. They're not really doing much. And I think that's part of the problem. And I hope, I mean, I don't know, if we had a viable third party, maybe there would be more stuff happening. At least there'd be more debate and more sort of push to get something done, rather than, just seeing who can out stalemate each other.
Thanks, Tom. That makes me think about our last week. We did things we love about America. We love debate. We have a show, Not the Smartest Guys. We debate things. We talk about things. People bring new ideas here. It's okay. It's good. Let people bring hear their voices. All right, Tom. Now this is important. I want to know, do you know about Rico's Tacos yet? The series that Procter and Gamble is running in one of their supermarkets. You know about that?
I do not.
Oh, you'll love this. So Rico's Tacos is a series that only airs in a certain grocery store. It's a partnership with Procter and Gamble. This is Tom's space, man. Like it's the juice. So it's like a written plan series. It's like so these people go in using, like, they go into the store and they're starting a taco truck, and they buy all their products and go down the aisles, and it's whole, what do they call that when it's like a planned show? Like, it is like it's not a like a reality.
It's a scripted comedy drama.
Yeah. So here they have their own content, and I'm thinking about this Rico's Tacos. I'm like, that's a cool idea. And then I sit at Speedway when I'm getting gas in my Biggie. I sit there, and on the little screen at the gas station, Maria Menudo is telling me about positive things in the gas station. Like, it's this little TV at that thing I'm watching. Like, I like this show that I'm watching at the gas station while I'm pumping. So I'm thinking, I wish my grocery store had a show like Rico's Tacos, and now I might skip the other gas station so I could go watch funny things at that gas station. So there you go, Tom. Wanted to open that up to you because that's your world.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I love this, and I want to look into it more. I just Googled it real quick. It's a collaboration between Procter and Gamble and Albertsons, are the grocery stores, and it's a scripted micro series. So each episode's only a couple of minutes long, and it's about a family navigating cultural identity, resilience, and legacy as they work to build their taco business, right? Rico's Tacos. Yeah, I'm curious I'm going to check it out for sure. So Albertsons owns Safeway too, I think. And so Safeway is one of the places where you can see this. But yeah, I want to look into it. Apparently, it was conceptualized using like retail shopping data from Albertsons. They're interweaving, and doing product placement with Procter and Gamble products. Yeah, So yeah, I'm super curious about this. I gotta dig into this. I'm gonna watch a bunch of episodes and who do a deep dive on it, and who knows, maybe I'll write a newsletter about it and all kinds of good stuff. But yeah, I mean, this is great social proof of like what I've been this drum that I've been banging as long as we've known each other, right? Talking about legendeering, talking about creating content for your audience that they want to see where they are, right? And using that content as a vehicle to deliver value to your audience and tying that value to your brand. And that's exactly what Albertsons and Procter & Gamble are doing. It's not surprising it's Procter & Gamble, because they were the ones that brought us the soap opera, right? Nearly 100 years ago, right? 80 years ago, they were the ones that sort of brought us the original sort of brand sponsored, brand underwritten content in the vehicle that was originally the daytime drama. It was the soap opera. So it's kind of like a mini soap opera, I guess, that Procter and Gamble is bringing to Albertsons. It's really interesting. It's interesting, but I mean, read my book, like, please, read Legendeering, available anywhere books are sold, but this is all sort of laid out in Legendeering. It's exactly what I've been talking about. My book was published 2 years ago. I've been talking about Legendeering since I think 2022 is when I first sort of started using that term. Here we are in 2026, 4 years later, and it's happening. So get on the bandwagon, guys. And if you want help, give me a call. I know a guy. But yeah, I appreciate you mentioning, Dom. I want to dive in.
Yeah, good stuff. Yeah, and I just yesterday I had maybe it was 2 days ago. I have one of my authors host an anthology, and she's on book 7, and I'm sitting there thinking, well, I should interview these authors, and I took the interview from the authors that was like in podcast form, put it on the website, put it on my YouTube page, and the content was inspirational content from my authors that they wanted to share. They wanted to. So why not? It's exactly what you're saying. Well, I had no series before that, but I thought, here, why wouldn't I share their content on my page? Oh, let's interview them. Let's find out what they're talking about, and maybe we can help them touch more people. So, hey, Jason, you were flashing. Go on. What do you got, my friend?
Tom, one thing you just did, the best thing ever. You brought up your book. What I don't hear from you, and we're talking about, creating what an audience wants. If you're not bringing it up in specific inserts or outserts of what you wrote, even in your show here, what is the missed opportunity that you're not taking advantage of? Like, if you can't bring an anecdote from your book, even though it's you two on the show, you guys are great friends, and Dom being a book producer, that it's like it's money left on the street. And I think that if you do that more often, people who don't know you and who don't see you, if you don't bring it up more often, there's never going to be an interest. And for writers, I think especially writers are losing to what they can't get an extension for. Like, I've had 9 writers from Clubhouse and other places, and a lot of times they ask me, what's your feedback after you read it? And I was like, I stopped after 4 chapters, and they're all, why? And I'm all, because you weren't writing about a subject, you're writing about your dumping of your subject. How am I going to be interested if I'm not enticed by what you're growing from and moving from what you worked through to where the actual meat and potatoes of the success which people want? So if you're not using the struggle, the obstacle in the way, as the attention getter, then what makes it worth it to go look and read and find out, like a mystery novel or mystery series? You're missing out. And I'm glad you finally said something about Legendeering. You said it before, but I was reminded now. So I just wanted to bring that up.
Thanks, Jason. I appreciate that. Yeah, and it's something that I'm notoriously bad about is mentioning my own work, right, and citing my own work. It's something that I'm working on, and trying to be better about. In fact, I have sort of in plans some content series that I'm building around legendeering to bring it to more people, to try to drive sales of the book, really, because ultimately at the end of the day, look, I'm never going to sell enough books to become rich off of this book, right? That's not the goal. But the goal is to get as many people as possible to understand what legendeering is, to adopt it and start using it in their business and in their communications, because I think it'll make the business world and the world that we all live in, where we interact with businesses on a daily basis, a better place to be. And ultimately that's a legacy that I want to create and something I'm invested in. And so yeah, I'm trying to be better about it. I'm trying to talk more about my book and mention it where it makes sense. And I'm, I've got a content series, like I said, that I'm planning that'll be designed specifically to feed into the book and to try to drive sales of the book. So appreciate
Tell you what I'll do as a commitment. I've ignored your book for a while, I'll be honest, but I'll give it a look, because what do I deal with? I deal with the sphere of influence of men, and who would tend to read in detail that need what is legendeering the title mean first? How can I get into it? And what as a man will I bring to it? Well, right now, the sphere of influence of manosphere is drawing attention of men writers like yourself into a subject of what betters us in through experience and devotion. So if legendeering is a tip of the spear, I'll buy a copy today and I'll read it. And I might talk about it on my TikTok. I'll send you a message, let you know, because I do talk about books on my lives. I talk about books about what specifically, why you need to read this. Here's what I found interesting. This is something that's touching on me and my life experience. I relate on that. Get people like that to be your ambassadors, that you relate to in community. You will grow exponentially, even into this title. That's what it's all about. That's the sphere of influence money can't buy so easily. Because when people are being authentic, well, I liked what this writer said, and he did this, and here's how it applies to me. You take that personal reference, the ambassador grows your brand because they relate to it on a human level, not an algorithm level.
Jason, thanks, my friend. You remind me of something here, and I want to give this message to Tom and all my authors out there. A book is never over until you give up on it. Tom wrote a hell of a good book. I've written good books. I've worked with authors who've written good books. Sometimes they give up on it. They're like, well, I came out with that book. I launched that book. That book's over. But you spent so much time on it. There's good material in it. Keep talking about it. Robert Kiyosaki's been talking about Think and Grow Rich for 40 years, and it still sells. I'm meeting new people today. People today are hearing me talk for the first time. I wrote Go Ask Your Dad. I wrote My Name is Sharon. I wrote a book called The Grunt. All these things, you talk about them. And if you don't, the new people you met aren't going to get the value from that book. And actually, so I'm going to take one step farther. I'm sending it home here. If you believe that your book has value and can help people, you are doing a disservice to those people that you could help by not talking about your book, by not promoting your book. So authors that wrote a book and haven't been talking about your book, do better. There you go, Tom.
Okay, I just bought your book. I sent proof, Tom, and took a screenshot of your in my screenshot pictures and put it into your private chat. So I'll keep my word.
All
Man
right,
to
Jason.
man.
Good job, man. Hey,
Man to
thank you.
man.
And that means, Tom, you got when the time comes, you got to get on Jason's podcast, talk man to man about it. Okay, go on, Tom. What do you got?
I accept that. I appreciate it, Jason. Thanks for buying the book, and can't wait to hear what you think.
One star. one star. Jason B. Tom says, I hate Tom Stumps and this book. Okay. This is not the smartest guys in the room. We're speeding quicker here. Tom, PSA, you got one for us today?
Why don't you go ahead and lead, and I'll follow. I know you've got something worked up. So why don't you go ahead and lead? I'm going to move things around a little bit just be aware of where your face is. Look at yourself, and if you see the clock blocking your face, move your face.
Okay, I can do that.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So here we
not
go.
sure this is a life-changing PSA today, but it is very important. I go get ice cream with my wife. I get ice cream with my kids. Why is a small 2 scoops? It makes no sense to me, Tom. Small should be 2 scoops. Small should be 1 scoop. Medium should be 2 scoops. Large should be 3 scoops. When I get a small, I don't want 2 scoops. I got stomach issues, then I feel all guilty. It melts. I have to throw half of it away, or it's this big thing. I just want a small to be a small. All stores, small, small, medium, medium, large, large. Quit screwing with the sizes. I want one size fits all with my sizes, Tom. That's all I got.
Is that not subjective though? Right? Isn't size subjective? A little bit?
I could make a lot of comments here. I want to know, why is this ice cream place giving me 2 scoops as a small, this one? I don't like it, Tom. I don't want subjective. I want non-subjective. So what do you got for your PSA today?
So I'll make a quick suggestion to yours is maybe just ask them, like, if you can get 1 scoop, if they can charge you for like a kid size or something like that.
Okay, here's my beef, Tom. A kid size, you have to say kid size, and then it looks like you're trying to rip them off and get a kid size. Like when I was in the restaurant business, people would, like, some grown guy would be like, I'll take the kid burger, and I'm like, well, that kid burger is $1.99, man. You got quit. You buy the big one, the full price burger. So I don't like.
Is bigger better, Dom? Is bigger better?
I told you, I can't even say all these things I want to say. So go on.
Well, I mean, if bigger is better, are you losing quality? And a lot of times the bigger is worse. Like when you're full to the brim, you're wasting food. You've also wasted dollars. And you're going to spend more time trying to recover from bigger than just better and manageable. I eat smaller plates because I'm diabetic, but it makes sense because, you know what? I take the Japanese way of eating 80%. I fill to 80% and leave 20% of wiggle room. So health-wise and quality life-wise, bigger is not better.
Hey, there you go. And I'm not getting into this subject. I'm trying to keep it clean here on Not the Smartest Guys in the Room with all this weird innuendo. So Tom, give me your PSA. What do you got?
All right, let me move things around here a little bit. I'm going to swap sides. So I've got the clock over mine rather than over yours. And I got to be honest, I'm not sure I have. Oh, you know what? I do have a good one. All right. I got a PSA. Here we go. All right. So this one, I'm not calling you out, Dom. I think this is something worth saying, right? And I know you're going to take this as a call out. It's really not the context that I thought of it in, but I spend a ton of time outside in the summer, right? I spend a lot of time outside in the summer. I'm always outside. I'm running. I'm riding my bike. I'm outside a lot, right? Hours and hours and hours, sometimes most of the day. On the weekends, depending on what I got going on. Here's the thing that I have gotten into the habit of doing, and I wish I had done my whole adult life, but I will continue to do for the rest of my adult life. And that is to always wear sunscreen when I'm outside, right? I always wear sunscreen when I'm outside. I always, always, always wear it. And I do get tan in the summer. It's not that I don't get tan, and I wear SPF 30 at least, sometimes, or often 50. But always wear sunscreen when you're outside in the sun, regardless of your complexion, regardless of how dark your skin tone is. It's always good to do. And here's something interesting. There's some new sunscreen products, some sunscreen chemicals that just got approved by the FDA that have been approved in Europe for a number of years, and in Canada. And they're more effective than some of the other sort of chemical sunscreens that we have now. They're as effective as zinc-based sunscreens, and they don't leave a sort of greasy film on your skin. They absorb really easily, and they've been proven over time to not be detrimental to your health. So I would encourage people, look into those. They're coming out later this year. They should be on stores here in the US. You can order them online from Canada and places like that right now, but look into it. I forget the exact chemical name, but I know La Roche-Posay is one of the companies that has it in their sunscreens that you can get online. But look into it, because it's they're great. They stay on really well. They protect you really well. You don't even know you have it on, and you're dramatically reducing your risk of skin cancer at the same time. So, that's my PSA. It was really long, but sorry.
Thank you for, well, when you're trying to protect the greater good, that is a good thing. But I'll tell you, my daughter tried to give me a 50 SPF the other day. I threw it, Tom. I was like, get that junk out of here. And my sister was in town and she had a 6. I was like, what do you got, Alyssa? And I'd never even heard of a 6 before. And I looked, I didn't even know it was real. I looked on the bottle. I was like, 6. And she's like, yeah. So what do you think about that?
I think that's probably not actually protecting you very well, and you should wear 30 at least.
Hey, but I can't wear that lame 50. Okay, Tom, then we're almost closing up here. So I'm going to give you I'm going to go a quick memory lane, nothing mushy today, but I'll just tell you because it was a thank you to you in this memory lane. Tom has had beef with my headphones for years. And I used to have these white ones that were so I got a different pair that I run with, but I got those. My memory lane is goodbye to my old white headphones that you said they gave me on a Delta plane. And I got those ocular ones that you're talking about, or not ocular, cochlear that go to a different bone in your head or something like that.
Yeah, bone conducting headphones, the shocks.
Bone conducting, right? I got the bone conducting headphones, and I still can't figure out how they're working. And they're shaking my brain when I'm using them, but they work good, man. I'm cruising down the trail. I was riding my bike the other day, and I could hear my wheels rolling on the trail for the first time ever while I was listening to music. I'm able to listen to the Pirates win while I'm riding, because before I didn't have a good enough sound. I couldn't even hear a baseball game. I could only hear loud music. But because of you, Tom, I said goodbye to the Deltas and got the bone conducting ones, and I'm a new man. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm grateful that you tried them. I mean, I love them. I've been using them for years.
Yeah.
I think they work great, especially I think they were originally designed for running. They work great on your bike too, but one of the nice things about it is they don't go in your ear. So they, like you were saying, you could hear your wheels turning as you're going down the trail, right? Like you could hear the sound of your tires on the trail. And similarly, if you're out running or doing anything active outdoors, you can hear what's going on around you, which can be really important, especially if you're on a road and there's traffic, right? It's important to know, I can hear a car coming, even if I'm listening to a podcast or listening to music on my headphones, because my ears aren't blocked by the bone conducting headphones. They sit sort of just in front of your ears on the bone, on your skull right here, right in front of your ears. And simply they vibrate. And then your brain, that vibration travels into your inner ear and your brain interprets it as sound, right? The same way, for anybody at home who's trying to figure out how they work, if you take both fingers and stick them in your ears and talk, you can hear yourself. Well, the reason you can hear yourself is because of bone conduction and soft tissue conduction, because the sound from your voice box is vibrating through the soft tissues and the bones in your head, right, to your inner ear, and your brain is interpreting what it hears as sound, which is why also we don't like the way we sound on recordings, because we sound different. We all think we sound different. And it is true that we do to ourselves. We sound the same to everybody else, but we sound different to ourselves because the way we hear ourselves includes the sound that travels through our heads into our inner ears, as well as the sound bouncing off the things around us and going into our ears through the air, right? And so we get a different type of auditory experience of our own voices than anybody else does. So really what's happening when you say you don't like the way you sound recorded is what you're saying is, I don't like the way I sound to me because to me, I sound different, but you're the only person that you sound different to. What you're hearing on that recording is how you sound to everybody else. And everybody else is like, what are you talking about? You sound fine. Sounds like you. Yeah, well, that's because that's how you sound to everybody else. So interesting little thing, but that's how the bone conduction works. But I'm glad you tried them out. I think they're great.
Yeah, I feel like it's shaking my brain, so I got to get used to that a little bit. But Tom, I always think I sound like Kurt Cobain and Marlon Brando, but to everybody else, what you hear is how I sound. Tom, wrap us up, my friend. What do you got for us?
Yeah, I mean, I think, look, to wrap it up, I'll bring it back around to YouTube and Netflix and Paramount Skydance, and ultimately what I think is happening here. And I kind of wish Julie was in the room. She'll be sad to have missed this because I'm going to mention her favorite dead economist, Milton Friedman. But I think genuinely what's happening is Netflix and Paramount Skydance, with their merger with Warner Brothers Discovery, are essentially reading from Milton Friedman's playbook, from the policy that was enacted in the 1980s during the Reagan administration, and the implementation of that policy, and that theory from Milton Friedman through the work of Jack Welch, the former CEO of GE, who famously was held up for the longest time and lauded as sort of the model CEO and what a CEO should be. Now he is sort of infamously looked at as the man who killed capitalism because of his drive to drive shareholder value at the cost of everything else, essentially led to the downfall of GE as a company, as the business that we once knew it to be. So, I think they're trying to play from the same playbook. They're trying to scale in the same way. They're trying to drive the same kind of value that Milton Friedman espoused and that Jack Welch did at GE for all those years. And the problem is they're running into the same issues, right? They are finding that ultimately it is impossible to grow at the same rate in perpetuity. This idea of like 5% growth forever is not a real thing. 7%, 14%, whatever the percentage is that you're picking, it's not a real thing. You can't grow at the same rate forever, right? Can you overall grow year over year? Yes, absolutely, that's attainable. But can you grow at the same sort of exponential rate year after year after year forever? No. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to scale, through two different modalities, Paramount Skydance through acquisition, right? And Netflix through growing their IP. But ultimately what they're finding out is that YouTube had it right, that really the better play was just to be the delivery system, which is where Netflix ironically started out to begin with. Right? They were just the delivery system for other people's content. They kind of started the idea before YouTube even existed. And now YouTube has said, hey, that's a great idea. We're going to do that, but digitally. And they won, right? Or at least they're winning anyway, I should say. So, look, I think the lesson is at the end of the day, scaling through these old modalities, through these old systems that have been proven not to work in the long term is a bad idea. We're starting to see the same thing happen with AI and with the rumors circulating around OpenAI asking for essentially a government bailout, offering a 5% stake to the federal government, right? So we're starting to see the same thing happen with AI companies. It just doesn't work. You're better off creating content on a regular basis, consistently, that delivers value to your audience, and putting it wherever your audience is, going to where your audience is, right? And that's what YouTube has done. That's what the creators on YouTube are doing. And frankly, that's why they're winning. So that's all I got for this week. Thank you guys very much. We love you guys as always. You guys are the reason why we are not the smartest guys in the room. We appreciate you. We thank you. We love you. And we will see you again soon. Until then, have a great rest of your week and a great weekend. We love you. Bye-bye.